In example 6, we introduced the concept of the normal line, but first we're going to do a little bit of work with a tangent. The first thing that they ask us to do, given this function f of x equals negative 1/2 x squared plus 2x plus 1, they've asked us to find f prime of 3. So let's begin by finding f prime of x. So f prime of x is going to be equal to, and applying the power rule to each term in our polynomial, we have negative 2 times 1/2 x plus 2. X to the 0 is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, and then the derivative of a constant is of course going to be 0. The 1/2 cancels with a 2. We have negative x plus 2. Now we can find f prime of 3, and that's going to be negative 3 plus 2, which is equal to negative 1. So that means that we're going to have a slope of negative 1 at the point on our graph that corresponds to an x value of 3. So the next thing they ask us to do is to draw the tangent line. So let's take a minute and do that. So what we want to do is to move our straight edge so that it crosses through the diagonal corners of the square. And we also have a little gauge on ours that tells us this is a 45-degree angle. And so that corresponds to a slope of negative 1. So I'm just going to line that up here at x equals 3. And let's see. Let's make that line red. We'll get rid of the ruler and sketch in a couple of arrows. Now this is not the best tangent line in the world. It technically is a secant line. So let me move it a little bit. And that's the great part about doing this stuff electronically. I couldn't just drag that line if I had done it on paper. All right. The next thing that I have to do is to go ahead and figure out what the equation is for this tangent line in part C. And so an easy way to do that is to begin with our function f of x in slope-intercept form. So we have f prime of a times x minus a plus f of a. Now I don't know what f of a is, and so let's figure that out. Let's go off to the side here. F of x equals negative 1/2 x squared plus 2x plus 1. So f of 3 is going to be negative 1/2 times 3 squared plus 2 times 3 plus 1. And 3 squared is 9, half of 9 is 4.5. And I'm going to be subtracting that 4.5 from a positive 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So 7 minus 4.5 is going to be 2.5. So now I know what f of 3 is, and we already knew what f prime of 3 was. F prime of 3 is equal to negative 1 from part A. So now we can just fill in our formula for the tangent line. Y equals f prime of 3, which is negative 1, times x minus 3 plus 2.5. And now we've got the equation for that tangent line that we just sketched in.